Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am a relationship coach with over 4 years of experience, and the topic that I want to talk about today is dating, but specifically dating apps. It isn't easy to navigate what works best for us, so sometimes we do turn to influencers and relationship coaches and therapists to understand what works for us. And today, I just want to give you guys some tips, tricks, and questions while you're navigating that. Let's go. The first thing that I would think we would need to change is our mindset on how we're viewing dating apps. I think it is very easy for a lot of people to assume that dating apps are the problem. And that is the reason why I keep meeting people that just don't want the same thing as me. But that's inaccurate because the dating app is just a platform for you to meet more of these people that are out there, because you probably wouldn't have met these people if you were just sticking to your day-to-day routine and going to the same places you always go to. I don't want us to continue looking at dating apps as, okay, yeah, like they're not choosing me. We have to change that number one thing before we start to do anything else. Because when we can change that, then we can start to view dating apps as more of a tool to our advantage, opposed to something that is going to just feed into that self-fulfilling prophecy that no one's going to want what I want, and this is just a waste of my time. So the beautiful question today is, how do I change my mindset when it comes to dating? And that's what we're going to talk about. And the first thing would be to take breaks. There are going to be times where you meet someone, you thought it was going to work out, it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, and you're feeling a little burnt out, or maybe just not optimistic that things are going to get better. Take a break from the apps, take a break from talking to people, and just do things that would make you happy. And you should be doing that regardless if you're talking to someone or not. But when you go through that period where you were meeting people and it either A, wasn't working out for you, or B, you thought it was going to work out and then it didn't, this is a moment to take a pause, reset, and come back at a different point. And that looks different for everyone. Sometimes people just need a few weeks, a few months, whatever that is, just take a little bit of a break. Kind of like when you go on vacation, you come back to work after vacation and you're not as overwhelmed. That's how you're going to view dating app. Have someone that you can turn to hold you accountable for this, someone that can remind you of why taking this break is going to be helpful for you. And then also have a journal that you turn to where you can write in your journal the things that are bothering you, stressing you out, worrying you, so that you're not just going on apps to distract yourself, because that is a huge reason why people stop and then give it a few days and they go back on it, because they're feeling lonely, they're feeling, like they want to run away from a situation in their own personal life. So they're like, I need to just distract myself. Make sure that you have things that you're doing to fulfill your time and your energy in a healthy way. Have someone that can hold you accountable when you think, okay, I'm just going to get back out there and date after just a few days, as well as feel the emotions. It's okay if you're feeling a little alone. It's okay if you're feeling like you want that attention. You don't always have to give in to those emotions and those feelings that you're having. The second thing is reframe how you are telling yourself the story about that last person you talked to or that last relationship that didn't work out. Because if you tell yourself this negative story, you'll go out there and you'll have this negative perception that, okay, it didn't work out, it's probably not going to work out again. You're not going to be optimistic. And I say the story is huge, and I've probably said this a million times. Your brain does not know the difference between what you tell it and reality. So if you tell it that dating is just not working out, people don't want me, your brain will take that as reality, and it will show up with this self-fulfilling prophecy that people are not going to choose me and dating is just not going to go right for me. So I'll give you an example. I had a client who was talking to someone for a few months, and that person ended up, changing their careers and moving states, and they had to leave. This person had viewed that as, they don't want me and they're just running away. And then I had another client who was going through something very similar. Oh, excuse me. They're going through something very similar, and their opinions and perspective wasn't that, oh, this person's leaving me and isn't choosing me. It was, this person is going through transformation in their life right now, and they have to figure that out, and their cup is not filled, so they're not going to be able to fill mine right now. And that just means I have to show up for myself and go with what makes sense for me. The difference between those two stories is they got to figure this out themselves out, and I can't just assume it's because they don't want to be with me. The second person ended up having a very fulfilling life. They did things for themselves. They met someone who actually was ready and could fill their cup because they were filling their own cup. The first person ended up going on dates with people who were just not respecting them and not treating them well because they still had this perception, last person didn't want me. So now the way that they show up in dating is they accepted less than they deserve from people who were just going to treat them poorly. So some journal prompts that I want you to think about: what negative stories or thoughts do I continue to tell myself? When did these stories start to come up in my life? Are there specific evidence or people in my past that confirm this negative belief that I have? How do these thoughts affect my decisions, my relationships, and my overall life? What would be a more compassionate way of reframing the story that I'm telling myself? What would that look like? How can I reframe these negative thoughts into a positive affirmation or a positive story? The third thing is setting boundaries. And I promise you, people are not going to want to stick to the boundaries that you set. They are going to want to break them. But at the end of the day, just because you tell someone, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, or I don't want to do this, that doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to be like, okay, hands off. Some people will. At the end of the day, people want to drop those boundaries and they want to get what they want to get out of it. So it's up to us to make sure that we still stick to it, regardless of what the other person wants and how they feel. I'm going to give you an example. When I was younger, I used to tell people that I wouldn't really kiss or, do anything intimate physically with someone unless they were my boyfriend. And when I would constantly say that, I was saying that in hopes that they would also respect that boundary. But that's not necessarily the case. And of course, we can sit here and say, okay, well, that just means that they're not a gentleman and they're this and that. And I'm also not talking about genders because this is for everyone. But in me, for example, I would say it in hopes that they would take it and respect it. But I wasn't sticking to my own boundaries. I was saying something, but I wasn't acting on it. And that lets other people know, okay, well, you're saying this one thing, but you're doing another thing. So the next time you set a boundary and you say you don't want to do something, you don't feel comfortable with something, you're just saying it, and let's see how far you go with your actions. So it's set your boundaries, stick to them. You don't necessarily always have to tell people what this boundary is. You yourself just have to show up as that. Specific questions that you should ask yourself when learning to set your boundary: where am I comfortable meeting this person? And how long am I comfortable staying with this person? Some of the boundaries that you have to set are even boundaries that you personally don't want to set. So for example, you get really attached to people really easily if you spend a lot of quality time with them and have all these memories with them, then maybe in the beginning, spending a lot of time with them would be a boundary that you would have to set, even though you're like, but I want to see them. No, I have to stick to this boundary in order for me not to get super attached. How much are you willing to invest being okay at the end of the day if it doesn't go the way that you want it to? I'm okay with investing a few times a week talking to this person or seeing them. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. I didn't invest a whole lot of my energy. You have to figure out what is an appropriate amount where you're going to be okay with it just not going the way that you want it. Lastly, do not look at the person for what they are telling you or the story that you have in your head based off of what you're seeing or how you're feeling in those moments, because you're going through lust. Everyone goes through lust in the beginning. I want you to base how you perceive a future with this person on how consistent they are, how consistent you guys are, if your values align, if you want the same thing in life, and a few other things. For some people, that would be family. For others, it would be religion. Whatever it is that's important to you, over time, does it align? And then you can start to, see that future with them. But prior to that, in the few beginning stages, don't envision, yeah, that's the person I want to be with, because you haven't gone through experiences with them enough. How do they handle conflict with you when conflict arises? How do they handle stress in their own personal life? How do they show up for you when they're going through things in their own life? How do they communicate? Of course, none of these questions or answers will be settled in the beginning. This is stuff that happens over time. So don't rush to jump into something. Don't assume that you already know this person. Take your time getting to know them and be unattached. That is the biggest thing. Enjoy it for what it is. If they're super sweet, if they are accommodating, if they're, whatever it is that you liked, look at that as, I really like that. And I want to make sure over time that that is consistent.